Hi, this is NappyNation. Today, I'm sitting here with Curtis, and he's just going to tell you a little bit about what he has going on and the different kind of organizations that he has his hands in. So, for starters, just tell him a little bit about yourself, like where you from and how was life growing up for you?
I'm a native Minnesotan. I've lived in Minneapolis and St. Paul, but I predominantly grew up in Minneapolis North Side. I'm a proud member of my community. I want to see good things happen for us, man. I want to see things change on the other end. As far as organizations that I work with, I have my hands in. Pretty much work with anybody that's on the forward movement of social justice and activism. Whether it be for equal rights for everybody, equal wages. Definitely stand against police brutality and police murder and violence. I'm definitely about police accountability and accountability for government, period.
So before you get into that deeply, what made you even get into that type of situation? What made you want to help?
Well, I could say my dad. My dad has always been a proud community member. He worked in a number of ministries. He worked as a social worker. He always just took pride in giving back, not only to the kids, to the elderly. He did prison ministry when I was a kid, so it was just always about giving back. When I was a kid, we did as much as we could. So my dad kind of laid that foundation and framework for me.
Now, was you ever on the other side of the fence? Did you get in trouble? Was you ever
Definitely. All of the above, man. I was a hellion. I was a young Thundercat on the north side, man.
Yeah.
I had, by the time I was 16, I had 6 violent gun felonies. In the year 2000, I committed my last violent gun felony. I did some time in the penitentiary.
How much time did you do?
Did 3.5 years.
And and I like to get this disclaimer all the time. I like to give a disclaimer saying anytime we ask about the negative stuff in life, it ain't for bragging. It ain't for promoting. It's just for kids that did live that kind of lifestyle and think that there's not a better way. They could see somebody that did live it, that did go through it, and say if he made a change, then it's possible for me to do it.
And to be honest with you, man, you get sick of taking. You get sick of being on the other side, man, and causing problems. And then you see what you can do. There's power in all of us, If we have the power to control some things or do a lot of negative things, we can equally shift that power paradigm to something positive.
Okay. So, what gang did you participate with?
Shotgun Crips.
Okay, the Crip gang. So, what was it that happened in your life that made you even figure, okay, you know what, it's got to be something else out there? What made you shift like that?
My kids, man, when I did the time in the penitentiary, man, I saw only my oldest daughter. My youngest 2, at the time, I didn't see at all. And it wasn't that prison was hard for me. It was that prison inside my mind and that separation from my family that was hard.
I know exactly what you mean. I went through the same exact thing.
And then when I came out, my 2 now middle, but were my youngest at the time, were in a bad situation with their mother. She was addicted to drugs, still is. And I knew that what they had been through in that time that I was in the penitentiary, I couldn't allow them to go through anymore. So I got custody of my daughters, man, and I just, flipped the script.
So what was your first steps that you took to get into maybe I should ask that, what was your first step into the positive lifestyle, like far as, the organizations that you do or whatever? What was the first step?
Just being present, man. Like I said, growing up, I remember when Tycel Nelson was killed by the police on the north side, man, shot in the back running with a screwdriver. My dad always kept us engaged in community activities, so that was already in me, right. But I didn't let that part of me come into fruition. I didn't access that part of me because my focus was elsewhere. My focus was in the streets for wrong reasons, you know what I mean? Right. It made sense to me at the time, but now that in hindsight I look back at it, like I could have achieved so much more in my life. But then again, I would take none of it back though, because it's all a growing process.
Made you who you are.
The man I am today.
Okay, what was the first activity, like first protest or first?
Lately with Jamar Clark, and then unfortunately I caught another case. And then when the Philando Castile situation happened, I mean, it was just boots on the ground.
You was front and center for that?
Oh, yeah.
And for the Jamar Clark one?
Yeah, I ended up catching a case during that that's got me in the same court system that you're in right now.
All right. What kind of case was that you caught for?
TWI.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant caught a case because of the Jamar Clark thing. Did you not? Was you one of the ones that got arrested for the Castile case?
There was 170 arrests. I did get arrested from the air. I got charges in the mail. I wasn't arrested on site at the mansion, but there were arrests on 94, arrests, and a whole shift of arrests at the mansion. My fiance was arrested at the mansion.
And what is the charge for that? What do they call it?
I was charged with unlawful assembly, disturbing the peace, fleeing the police. And I don't even remember what the other charge was.
And you still fighting that then right now, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, they just had another court case like on the 20th. So, but it's still continued. So,
Is they talking about any jail time for that, or?
they're offering a bunch of deals, small financial deals, but really, I mean, I don't know how better to say it, but nobody wants to plead to anything, man. Gum up the system, man. If you gonna violate our rights to, peacefully protest,
Right.
and I mean, you can pay for that. Run that through the court all day long.
Yeah, you would think that they I could see how that system works where they charge somebody, but after the first appearance, so you would think they'd just throw that out. But
Well, they wanted to pass a lot of new legislation bills, specifically around protesting. They say that that occupation cost the city of St. Paul 1.8 or 1.9 million dollars. Reality of the matter is, we didn't really ask them to be there.
right.
Not only did we not ask them to be there, there was so many unnecessary expenditures financially of their budget that was done by the police force. You don't need 20 squad cars all over the place. There was no violent acts whatsoever at the mansion. We internally policed ourselves, kept things positive, kept things safe. We always look out for each other. And what they did was, it wasn't even like the officers that were on duty were more senior officers, so they were getting paid overtime. So like, it benefited the police departments to have their cops there. It did. I mean, they sucked that money out of the city of St. Paul.
Like they always do.
Right. They blamed us for it, like somehow we were, burning down bridges or breaking windows and doing it. I mean, none of that happened. We kept it peaceful.
Okay. What was the latest cop killer in Minneapolis? What was the lady name?
Justine Damon.
Justine Damon?
Damon.
Damon. Are you going to be a part of that one, or?
I have been.
Okay. What is that now? How do people, for those that do want to get involved with stuff of that nature, what would be a couple of steps that you'll give them, or a couple, piece of advice? How would they go about that?
It's Facebook, man. Check out Justice Occupation's page. It's Justice Occupation for Philando. You can check out the Black Lives Matter Twin Cities page. You can check out New North. A homeboy of mine, Cordon, puts that on. You can also check out Fight for Justice LLC. That's my guy, John Thompson. CUPBA, Community United Against Police Brutality. There's tons of organizers out here that are Twin Cities Justice for Jamar Clark. There's tons of people that just come, be present, get to shake some hands, meet a friend. You'll be greeted with love and respect, and just put yourself in where you fit in. Don't necessarily try to do too much. Just find yourself in a position where you feel comfortable. There's many different things that happen, different rallies, different actions. And if you're not comfortable with all of them, you don't have to be a part of everything. Just do what suits you. Play your position, come through, and just stay in your lane. And if you find another lane that fits you, you can transfer over into that.
What would you say to those that ask the question, like at my job, for example, they'll say, what do blocking the highways do for people? They'll always question the blocking the highways. They'll question the protesting. What do you feel it does? Why do you think it's important?
Well, there's a couple of things I have to say to that. Nobody should tell people how to grieve, and our communities are grieving. Period, point blank. And we don't get the attention that we deserve, honestly. We don't get the attention of the lawmakers to make police accountability and reform. We don't get the attention for most killings. And in Minnesota alone, there is 300 stolen lives from the police department of people who have been killed by the police since 2000. So that's 300 people that are not with their mothers, their daughters, their sisters, their brothers, their loved ones. And the amount of those that goes into a courtroom to even be looked at or heard is ridiculous. Before Jamar Clark, they did grand jury indictments. And the grand jury is a joke in that situation. So with Philando Castile, that was the first time we were able to get that in front of a judge, in front of a jury of our own peers. And it didn't go the way that we wanted to, but even when the dash cam footage was released, they gave the rest of the world an option to see what happened and the fact that we still didn't get justice. So when that's spoken, shutting down the highway, you can't appeal to people in a way they don't understand. And I will honestly say the only way that our local and, you know, national government understands is finances. And so what? It blocks your day. You didn't get to work on time. These are people who will never get to work again. These are people who will never get to hold their daughter again, kiss their mother, be told I love you, tell somebody that mattered to them that they love them. So that small inconvenience we also do to just show people like this is a small inconvenience, but these families and these people and these lives are affected in inconvenience that you can never bring back. Not even these piddly settlements, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I love Miss Valerie, but that $3 million they gave her, her son was worth more than that. She was rich as hell because she had the love of her son.
Right.
That money ain't nothing. You can't never bring somebody back with that money.
Right. And I did make a Facebook post about that and said, at least take the money because you're not going to get justice. So, it, you know, at least get something out of it instead of zero. And what I also tell my coworkers as far as blocking the highways go, I say, if they could have people talk about what happened, like, you know, the people that's getting the people that is going to be late for work, they'll sit there now. They could say, oh, what happened?
Right.
You know, now maybe it wasn't on their radar, and now it is because now they're late for work. So now they have no choice but to
have the conversation.
But to have the conversation at least, or at least know what happened. You know, because a lot of people don't be knowing what's going on.
This is very true.
So tell them your name and how can they get in contact with you if people.
My name is Curtis Avent. You can find me on Facebook, CurtisAvent. Drop me a line, you know, about something positive, and you want to do something positive, we'll network with you anytime.
Okay, and what's your plans for the future as far as the things that you do? How can you see it growing, and what kind of steps would you plan on taking and stuff of that nature if you want to share that piece?
Well, I think my next big move is I'm going to take an internship at a high school. So I'm going to start working with, I've always worked with youth my whole life, but I'm going to start more directly in the educational sense in dealing with them and knowing their rights and knowing what's going on just in the social justice aspect, period. Aside from that, we're still going to be, you know, pushing for better legislation, pushing for better laws to hold accountability. I'm on every level, food justice level, equal rights for, you know, people of color, equal rights for people of different sexual orientations and genders. I personally would like to quit doing this, not because I'm not invested in it, because I want the problems to end so that my children don't have to still, you know what I mean, in 10 years walking these steps, still having rallies, still having marches, still getting gunned down. And, you know.
What would you say for people that would say, well, if you just listen to the cops, if you obey, blah blah blah, you won't get shot. If you don't tussle with the cops, you won't get killed. And what is your thoughts on that?
Well, I got a few thoughts on that. I would say, ask Philando Castile. He told the officers he had a gun. He had a woman and he had his girl and his child in the back seat. They just got done from grocery shopping. Look at, you know, Justine Damon. She called the police. She asked them for help. She knocked on the window and got shot. I mean, in both of these situations, you know, the police weren't in any danger. And there's this narrative that being a police officer is such a dangerous job. It's not even in the top 20 most dangerous jobs in the nation. And statistically, police murders are down at an all-time low. So their fear of the citizens and community is irrational compared to the statistics. And as far as tussling or not listening, that's no reason to die.
Right.
I mean, you can say whatever you want to about, like, well, if he would have just put his hands up, that's a reason to shoot somebody?
Exactly.
I mean, I would ask that person, why is your appreciation or police appreciation for the quality of life of all of its citizens at that low that if you don't take a directive, you're put to death.
Right. And you know what I always say is, in the Constitution, you have the right to face a judge and the jury of your peers. No matter what you do, you could rape a kid, smack a cop, you could spit on somebody, you could do whatever you want to, and you have the right to get judged and get found guilty or not guilty.
Right.
So why is the police playing prosecutor, executioner, and everything else nowadays?
Well, because realistically speaking, if you look at it, they're here to, in their eyes, uphold the law. But that upholding of the law is, they pick and choose it because they're not held accountable to the same laws. I constantly hear about good police and bad police. When you can't make that line distinctive because your own good police are not outing or arresting their own bad cops, to me I don't see any difference. It's a system that promotes silence from within, that you cannot speak out against a cop if they do something wrong. So like in the Frank Baker case that just happened recently, there was an officer that spoke out and he was ousted. They made him leave his precinct, and instead of like saying, hey look man, this is a good cop, we want to embody more of these officers and empower them, they moved him to a different precinct, just like they do with the cops that, you know, come out here and kill somebody. So Yanez, he can go to another state and, you know, find another job as a cop somewhere else.
And Yanez, he's the one that murdered Castile.
Philando Castile, yes.
And who was the other cop you just named? The Frank?
Nor.
Who was he?
No, Frank Baker was a gentleman who was bitten by a police dog in St. Paul. They just paid out a $2.5 million lawsuit for assaulting this man, sticking a police dog on him. Then while he was down, the officer kicked him in his ribs, clapped his lung.
Wow.
You know, it cost the city a shitload of money.
Yeah, I noticed they pay a lot of money. They've been paying a lot of money lately, but we haven't had no convictions. That's kind of deep.
That's the game, though. That's the game. They're not held, like a police cannot be convicted of murder. The highest charge you can charge an officer on duty is manslaughter.
Right.
And even to get that into a courtroom is a lot because, like you said, either you use the "I'm afraid for my life" or they were resisting arrest or all these other narratives that, and when you see it even come up in the community, the media automatically assaults the character of the individual who is the victim of the murder.
Yeah.
So they go in and they look at their, you know, look at their criminal history, they look at this or that. That doesn't, regardless of what some man did 5 years ago or 8 years ago, that has nothing to do with the personal interaction between that individual and the officer at that time where that person lost their life. A history is a history. We all have histories.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking your time out to talk to us. And I'm gonna definitely try to get in contact with you. Well, I got your contact. We're gonna definitely try to connect. Definitely. If I could get involved more inside some of these, you know, bunch of stuff, protesting the whole 9 yards. I definitely want to get more involved myself.
And just one last little sidebar on that. If you think of all of the money that they're paying out in these lawsuits, think of what that money could be done in different areas, like putting up a lot better resources for the youth. I mean, once you invest in the youth and the infrastructure of your community, crime lowers. Yeah. So buying more police officers and hiring more police officers only reinforces a criminal institution because you're telling everybody that we need more police officers for what? And take some of that money and spend it in training your officers correctly. If you take someplace like Finland, in Finland you have to be in college, a specific police college for 3 years before you're allowed to be an officer. Here it's like 19 weeks. So if you look at the numbers in other countries, if you look at Europe, you look at Japan, you look at any of these countries, we lead the whole world in police violence, police murder. And I'm not and when we talk about like number 2 on the list, we still have thousands more than number 2 on the list. Thousands.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In the UK, there had been 181 deaths throughout the whole UK from police in 16 years, I believe. We average 1,500 a year.
Wow. All right, man. Tell them one more time how to get a hold of you if they need to.
Curtis Avent on Facebook, CurtisAvent. Hit me up and shoot me a message.
And just name a few of those programs, organizations once again that's out there, the New North. And
yep, the New North. You got Black Lives Matter Twin Cities. You got Communities United Against Police Brutality, Fight for Justice LLC, Twin Cities, Black Lives Matter, and there's a number of others. I mean, we're all out here. We're all ready to, help everybody out. If you want to stand for something, come stand with us.
All right, man. I appreciate the time. We'll do it again soon.
Definitely, brother.
All right, no doubt.